Bisco Akaboshi was supposed to be a weak monk, but instead, he's out here turning cities into mushroom farms with a bow and zero chill. The world is dying from rust, and his solution? Shoot giant fungi at everything and hope for the best. Now he's got the government chasing him, an apocalypse to fix, and a combat style that's basically eco-friendly terrorism. We open to see a man wandering with his face covered in paper strips. He stops to talk to some people at a checkpoint who advise him against going through. They said it was dangerous and gave him a more optimal route. Enter Tokyo. After surviving the explosion and years of hard work, they had slowly built a proper civilization again and were somewhat surviving, with a couple of health issues here and there. This was an after effect of the nuclear-sized explosion. It gave the citizens a disease called rusting, and it made their skin appear to be deteriorating. In a brothel establishment somewhere in Tokyo, there was a doctor whom everyone called Panda. He treated the locals who had the rusting disease and barely took any compensation for it. Normally, you'd call what he's doing a good gesture, but with the state of the world, not collecting money for his services is the stupidest thing he could possibly do. The owner had pity on him and wanted to offer him one of the girls for the night on the house. These were women whom men paid top money to spend the night with, yet when offered his pick for free, he turned it down. This is why I don't like stupid people. They piss me off to no end. The dumb doctor, Milo, went to a local food spot to buy some dinner for him and his sister. Just as he got his order and was about to leave, he asked the food vendor for something else, and he brought out a couple of mushrooms. So, the doctor likes to get trippy, huh? I knew he wasn't such a goody two-shoes. He even paid the man for it and went off quickly. Milo got home to his sister and handed her the food he had bought from the vendor. Then he went to the back of the house to open a peculiar machine and began some experiments with the mushrooms. Apparently, the government had given him the machine for some odd reason, and he was using it to make medicine for the townspeople. I still think he's not so clean, but we'll see. Meanwhile, the man with paper strips on his face was still talking with the people at the wall's checkpoint. The man there was telling him about a terrorist who could shoot projectiles, and mushrooms would spring up from them. I wonder what the whole fuss about mushrooms is. Anyway, after he had yapped for an eternity, the man at the wall checkpoint was about to let the paper-faced man through. He asked about the bag he was carrying, and the paper-faced man said it was filled with dead people. Whoa, what? Who just carries around dead people? Before the wall guard could think of anything to do, they suddenly were under attack from an aerial machine, which shot a missile and made mushrooms spring out of it. Oh damn, the paper-faced man is the terrorist. Imagine listening to tales of your terrorism from someone else and they have no clue it's you. Sounds badass. While the wall was under attack, Milo thought it was a wonderful time to go out and deliver some medicine. Like, bro, are you trying to get killed? As soon as he made the delivery and got something as well, he got robbed by a street urchin. He followed the boy into an alley and got jumped. But instead of punching his lights out, he proceeded to treat the little boy and even promised to buy him food next time. Once the boy ran off, Milo was faced with the governor of the city, Kurokawa. Kurokawa looked like one of those mob gangsters, and he was definitely as scummy as them. He teased and provoked Milo by telling him his efforts to find a cure in this city were pointless, and his sister and all the other citizens were bound to die soon. Milo was visibly enraged, but before he could do anything, an arrow was shot behind them, and mushrooms sprung out. It was shot by a group known as Mushroom Keepers. They had been branded as terrorists, and the cause of the rust that was spreading through Tokyo, mostly because they kept shooting arrows that sprung up mushrooms everywhere. Sounds like a bunch of aggressive hippies to me. Milo tried running home, but he stumbled into one of the terrorists with red hair. The Mushroom Keeper just went on demolishing the city and didn't pay any mind to Milo. Milo quickly ran home to tell his sister about the Mushroom Keepers, but he saw she was gearing up to go fight them. Milo tried stopping her, but she knocked him out and went off anyway. When Milo came to, he went back to his little lab to continue his experiments. He had gotten a new rare batch of mushrooms and wanted to start testing them out for medicine, but he wasn't the only one at home. The red-haired terrorist from earlier had followed him and was now face-to-face with Milo. He briefly introduced himself and said his name was Bisco, but I think Milo was more concerned about whether or not he was going to shit his pants. Well, looks like Milo's about to kick the bucket. Can't say I'll miss him, unless some crazy miracle happens. Bisco, after seeing that Milo was using the mushrooms for medicine, told Milo that crushing up the mushrooms wouldn't do any good. The best way to see results was to eat them. Milo tried to play the goody two-shoes again and said that synthesizing mushrooms was illegal, like he didn't have a whole lab dedicated to doing just that. Bisco told him not to waste any more time and gave him a mushroom to synthesize while he attended to his injured companion. As Milo turned to begin his work, a bunch of masked soldiers appeared and ordered Milo to come out and surrender. Bisco was clearly not about to do that, so they opened fire on the building, even after he told them he had Milo as a hostage. Looks like the masked people know how stupid Milo can be. Bisco realized staying there was a death wish, so he mobilized Milo and his companion and blasted a hole in the building with mushrooms so they could escape. Milo was still sad about his hospital getting crushed, but Bisco gave a half-assed apology and said they had to keep going. He shot 2 arrows in random directions to throw the search party off, then he kept moving on. Meanwhile, in the streets, Kurokawa was reprimanding a masked soldier for failing to kill Bisco at the wall checkpoint. He decided to mobilize his forces to mainly guard his office and the rest to search downtown for Bisco. He then gave the masked girl a small revolver to also look for Bisco and take a shot if she saw him. Bisco thought back to when he had just gotten past the wall checkpoint. He stood watch in case the masked shooters came back, and then he went to have some food. Before he ate, he asked his companion, who was actually his mentor, to show him his rust so he could treat it before they did anything else. When Bisco saw it, he realized his mentor didn't have much time before the rust got to his lungs. But the mentor told him not to worry and just eat his food. As they were eating, the mentor wanted to tell Bisco something. One of those, "if I die, I want you to know" type moments. But Bisco wasn't having it. He didn't want to even think about how life would be after his mentor died. So, he told his mentor never to talk like that again and said they were going to find a cure for him. Bisco then went out to meet his huge pet crab. As he was talking to the crab, he saw a bright light from the distance. It was a missile heading straight for him. He quickly shot it away, but he noticed who shot it. It came from a ship called an escargot. They were some very heavy machinery, and it wasn't normal for one of them to be outside the city like this. Next, the escargot spewed some green fog that looked deadly. Bisco hid under the crab and tried shooting at the escargot, but he got bitten and shocked by a strange creature. The escargot took this chance to shoot at Bisco, but the mentor protected him and got shot instead. Now in the present, Bisco was asking Milo if he could save his mentor, Jabi. They were in a sewer, and as Milo was examining his body, he noticed that other than bullet wounds, Jabi was just fine. His breathing and pulse were very stable. He wondered how it was possible, but Bisco was only interested in whether or not Milo could save him. Milo didn't say he could, but he definitely could make things better than they were currently. That was good enough for Bisco. He decided to go out and continue wreaking havoc in the city so that they wouldn't track them to the sewers. But Milo didn't let him leave. He still had injuries, and Milo wanted to treat them before he went out. This guy just doesn't know how to act when he sees injured people. It's like me whenever I see my girlfriend's butt. I can't help but want to touch it. Anyway, Milo finished treating Bisco's injury, and he told him to come right back if he got injured again. Bisco thanked him and left. On the surface, the city patrol was left in disarray because their plans to capture Bisco were not working. He had made them go the wrong way and ambushed them single-handedly. News got to Milo's sister about her brother's hospital collapsing. She quickly gave out orders and headed to the hospital immediately. Bisco, on the other hand, had finished dealing with the masked people. He left a girl conscious so he could question her a little. He asked her what happened to the city watch and why it was only the masked people that were attacking him. But the girl just wanted to save her own behind and offered him a deal. Before she could finish negotiating, Milo's sister, Pa Wu, rode in like Tom Cruise and even stuck the landing. She then proceeded to hit Bisco so hard that he flew into a building. But that didn't do anything to him. Instead, he used the dust of his collision as cover and shot an arrow so fast and hard that it pierced her weapon. This showdown is about to get crazy, and we've got the best seats in the house. Milo had managed to fix up Jabi enough that he just needed to allow the blood transfusion to finish, but he realized that even if he got Jabi on his feet again, he had about a month to live max. At that point, Jabi woke up and agreed with Milo. He said that he knew about his condition. Jabi asked about Bisco, and Milo told him what Bisco was up to on the surface. Milo asked who Jabi was to Bisco, and he said he was Bisco's mentor. He then commended Milo on his skill as a doctor. On the surface, Bisco had engaged Pawu in combat. He was matching her blows and dodging like the wind. But he noticed she, too, was suffering from rust. He told her that dragging this battle on would only make her condition worse. But this just made Pawu angrier, and she charged at him. Girls really are sensitive over anything relating to their skin. This Bisco guy clearly doesn't know how to talk to a lady. Pawu accused him of spreading the rust. But Bisco explained to her that the mushrooms weren't the cause of the rust. Rather, they grew because they were absorbing the rust. Jabi told Milo this too, but Milo didn't seem all that shocked, almost like he had a feeling about it this whole time. Milo had theorized that since all life on Earth had been affected by the rust, one living organism must have found a way to deal with the rust and even thrive on it. Those were the mushrooms. People often misunderstood and thought the mushrooms were the cause of the rust instead. Pawu wasn't having any of that. She refused to believe anything that came out of Bisco's mouth. Bisco kept trying to convince her and told her of a legendary mushroom he was looking for called the Rust Eater. It was said to be born from the prayers of a dying hero and could absorb the rust from both humans and the surrounding atmosphere. Hoping this had pacified her, he asked her to stand down and let him through. But Pawu just felt insulted that he thought that would satisfy her. Poor Bisco. He thought he could actually say something to satisfy a woman. Those creatures are beyond satisfying. Pawu was about to attack again, but she noticed that through all their clashes, Bisco had been calm the entire time. She decided not to think too much of it and focus on winning, but Bisco blurted out that he had recently come in contact with a doctor that was taking care of him and his mentor. This made Pawu visibly upset, and as soon as Bisco saw this, he poked at her about it even more. Yeah, I definitely don't see Bisco getting a girlfriend anytime soon. Either his poor flirting skills will stop him, or his lack of family jewels will discourage girls after Pawu breaks them. She jumped up and struck down so hard that it broke the big bowling pin Bisco was standing on. And just as he jumped out of the way, she followed up with another attack, but Bisco shrugged it off. He had poisoned her rod with mushrooms and made it practically useless. Bisco then used that chance to kick her into the air and shoot her with a poison arrow. Well, not really poison, more like a knockout, really. Bisco took Pawu to where he left Jabi and noticed the sewer entrance was open. He then heard a voice telling him to drop Pawu and back away slowly. He pretended to obey and pulled out his knife, but it was just the old man messing with him. Milo ran to meet up with them and saw that Pawu was unconscious and breathing heavily. He quickly treated her, and her breathing was back to normal. Jabi told them there wasn't much time left for them to escape, so he told Bisco to get going while he stayed to cover him. Bisco was furious and went on a rant about how he needed Jabi for medicine and all sorts of stuff. But Jabi glanced at Milo, and Milo quickly understood the assignment. He grabbed Bisco and told him to take him along the journey. Bisco abruptly refused and told Milo he was too weak and would lose both arms within a week or two. But Milo didn't care. He was committed to finding a cure for his sister. She's the only family he has, and he would gladly give both arms to save her. Bisco saw his determination and agreed to take him along. Milo turned to give Pawu one last goodbye. He wrote a letter and even touched her head against his in a heartwarming way. And this is crazy because they are still trying to get away from the watch, and this idiot Milo is here recreating movie scenes with his sister. Even Bisco felt the same rage I'm feeling now. After Milo had finished his unnecessary and long goodbye, he yelled at him and grabbed him by the shirt so they could start running away. I have a feeling this new tag team of Bisco and Milo is going to have a lot of rough patches on their journey. When they got to the North Gate, it was surrounded by the city watch, which isn't surprising, seeing how Milo decided to spend an eternity saying goodbye to his sister. Bisco was ready to go in, bows blazing like a badass, but Jabi covered him as promised. So, Bisco instead shot at the ground and made a colossal mushroom spring out of the ground, which made him and Milo leap into the air like a trampoline. And with one last look at the city, Milo smiled as he went over the wall with Bisco. After successfully escaping the city, they start their journey, but instead of going north, where the Rust Eater mushroom is said to be found, Bisco starts heading east instead. Milo has a hard time keeping up with him and asks if he is suffering from Zoro syndrome, which makes him unable to know where to go. Bisco tells him to shut up because he has never been wrong in his life and is just searching for his ride. Soon, they come to an area that still has greenery that is not affected by the rust yet. Milo begins to marvel over the floating balls of grass called driftweed, weed that has evolved to absorb sunlight during the day and glow during the night. Bisco pulls him away from the driftweed, telling him that he is not here for a picnic. He begins walking ahead, but as Milo tries to follow him, he suddenly feels dizzy and collapses. Bisco makes him rest in an abandoned car and then gives him some spike lizards to eat. Milo almost throws up when he sees them, but Bisco roasts them and then tells him to swallow them whole because their gut is bitter. After eating the lizards, Milo tells Bisco that Jabi may have only 1 month left before he dies, and in that time, they won't be able to make it to the northern region and back on foot. Bisco tells him that he knows that too because he is not an idiot. He then takes out a map to explain his plans, which involve using an abandoned railroad that will take them to their destination in just 2 days. Milo freaks out on hearing this because old railroads have ferocious iron rats that can turn a healthy man into bones within seconds. He says that even someone as strong as Bisco can't deal with all of them alone, but Bisco says that he is not alone. Just then, he sees a crab claw popping out of the ground and whistles to call it to him. The crab pops out of the ground with a bang, and Bisco tells Milo not to fear it because this steel crab is like his brother. He helps Milo get on top of the crab, saying that it likes cool places, so he was searching for it here. Also, since it is extremely fast and durable, they won't have to worry about the rats or other smaller creatures in the mines. Milo is amazed by the view from the crab's back, but when he tries to greet it, the crab just picks him up and tosses him away. Bisco laughs as the battered Milo gets up and then gives him some spare clothes so that he looks like a mushroom keeper. Milo then goes to the crab, who is still wary of him. Milo tries to convince him that he is a friend and then climbs on its back again, but the crab throws him away again. Milo is forced to walk behind the crab for some time, and when Bisco tells him to get on and learn how to ride a crab, he gets thrown away again. This repeats a couple of times, and by the end of the day, Milo is completely hopeless. Bisco assures him that he will get close to the crab after spending some time with it, and then it will treat him like a friend. The next day, while Bisco is preparing the special mixture that makes mushrooms grow to humongous sizes instantly, Milo is still trying to control the crab and clearly isn't making any progress. The crab runs off while he's on and almost crashes into a girl, but Milo manages to stop it just in time. He gets sent flying because of the sudden stop, and the girl offers to teach him how to ride a crab. Now here's why I keep saying Milo is an idiot. He let a complete stranger take the reins of the crab, and as soon as she did, she tried to run away. Like, dude, how naive can someone be? Luckily, Bisco spots this chaos and shoots her with the mushroom arrow, throwing her off the crab. She starts running away just as she sees Bisco. Meanwhile, Milo decides to treat the injuries the crab got since he pulled the reins too tightly. Bisco notices that Milo can easily talk the crab into obeying him, which is surprising because that is like going to second base with the crab, and even he took a long time for that. Later that night, they find an old war memorial and decide to take shelter there, but someone is already there. Bisco remembers her as the crab thief from earlier, but as she turns towards him, Milo realizes that something is wrong. He helps the girl puke first, but she is still choking on something. He realizes there's something inside her stomach, so he gives her a very deep kiss, and then pulls out a huge worm from inside her. Bisco squishes the creepy worm and asks what the hell it is. Milo explains that it is something called a balloon worm. Apparently, in earlier times, their eggs were fed to slaves, and then they were given medicine daily to prevent them from hatching. Using this technique, the slaves could not run away. Now, it is used on prisoners, but the one who gave it to the girl was none other than Kurokawa. After she cursed the entire generations of Kurokawa, the girl gets afraid of Bisco. He tells her to thank the doctor who saved her life first, but the girl says that no one saves a young and beautiful girl like her for no reason. She begins to strip, asking Milo if this is what he wants, and tells him to put his balloon worm inside her body. However, Milo tells her that he saved her because he is a doctor, and saving people's lives is what he does. He notices that she looks like a merchant and asks if she has any food. The girl is surprised to hear that they were not after her body and decides to do business with them. She shows them the food items she has, but Bisco asks if she has something like dry bread, which is cheaper and fills the stomach. But all the girl could hear was that Bisco was a broke-ass loser. Bisco reached for his bow and was about to send her to the great beyond, but Milo buys a packet of biscuits for them to eat instead. As they start eating, the girl gets up to dump some gasoline she has because she doesn't think anyone will come to buy it from her anytime soon. Later that night, Bisco suddenly wakes up as the ground starts shaking, and Milo is not in his bed. As he looks around, the girl suddenly pounces on him and pins him down. Turns out that the war memorial they were staying at was situated on the back of a giant mantis shrimp, and it awakened because it feeds on gasoline. And thanks to the gallon the stupid girl dumped down the building last night, the crab woke up. Milo sensed what was happening faster than anyone else, so he headed out at full speed on the crab while the giant mantis shrimp chased after him. Bisco and the girl came out to see they were not in any position to help, and the mantis shrimp kept firing its cannons at them. Bisco sees that the mines are really close now, and if the mantis shrimp reaches there, it will surely cause an explosion because of its attacks. So he asks Milo to stop it by attacking its head, but the idiot doesn't think he's got it in him. Bisco tells him to trust in himself and order the crab to attack the mantis shrimp's forehead. Milo decides to take a chance, and he instructs the crab to attack the giant bug right in the middle of its eyes. The crab suddenly leaps high and hits the target precisely, slowing down the mantis shrimp as Milo returns to the ground. Bisco tosses the girl toward him and jumps up to aim at the giant mantis shrimp's forehead. He then shoots a powerful arrow that kills it and makes mushrooms grow all over it, bringing the battle to an end. Bisco is glad that the mines and the railroads are safe, but then the dead mantis shrimp says "Psyche" and shoots one last cannon at the mines, setting them ablaze. Bisco is shell-shocked on seeing this, and he realizes that he needs to take the long route now. The next day, Bisco wakes up to Milo crying like a wimp because the girl had vanished with his money. At first, Bisco is angry and decides to find the girl and make her pay for it, but then Milo finds that she has left some supplies for them in exchange for the money, and a note telling him to team up with her in case Bisco dies. What a sneaky tool. Bisco and Milo stumble upon a city where kids have taken over. The kids don't see them as friendly, so Bisco, being the brute he is, takes one of the kids as a hostage to avoid the kids shooting at him. Yeah, you heard right. These kids are packing some serious firepower, and they know how to use it too because they fired off warning shots at Bisco to make him release their friend. Bisco saw that it was a hopeless situation, so he pulled out his own wanted poster and told them that if they took him to where he wanted to go, they would get a bounty reward. The kids quickly bound Bisco and Milo with some handcuffs and led them through the city. Eventually, Bisco was taken to a separate place while Milo was left with a young girl so she could keep an eye on him. While he was kept prisoner, Milo was given food and even had his cuffs removed. This guy is unintentionally rizzing up a little girl. Somebody call the cops. Milo kept the conversation going and asked the girl, whose name is Plum, why there were no adults around. She said that all the adults left to work for Kurokawa and were forced to wear the bunny masks. Milo noticed that she had something on her knuckles and asked to see it. The girl told him that everyone had it, and they were told it was the rust disease. Milo was disgusted by how much Kurokawa had lied to these little kids. He told Plum that what she had wasn't rusting disease at all. Plum was dumbfounded. Meanwhile, Pawu was out patrolling, and her bike got damaged due to a trap set by some thugs. As she stopped to see how much damage was done, she heard noise from afar and went to investigate. When she got to the place, she saw multiple bodies on the ground, dead. One more dropped as she was still examining the pile of bodies, which made her look up to see a couple about to be eaten by a monster. Pawu kicked the monster away and led the couple to safety. They invited her to come to their house, and she gladly agreed. When she got there, they told her what happened to the town. Apparently, a mushroom keeper came to their town and brought medicine to treat the townsfolk, but after a couple of weeks, all the people who received treatment from the mushroom keeper collapsed and died. The rest of the townsfolk fled the town and never came back. Hearing this made Pawu's blood boil. Never before had she been angrier toward the mushroom keepers. But the couple calmed her down and told her that things had been relatively fine since the keeper left, and they had been taking care of their shop with the hopes that some of the townsfolk would return one day. After they finished eating, Pawu went to continue fixing her bike. When she was done, she had a weird feeling coming from somewhere, so she looked into it. That could never be me. Pawu is acting like a white girl who dies early in a horror movie. When she got deeper into the building, she started to hear some sounds. But when she saw what was at the point of the sounds, she could barely keep her composure. A bunch of old bones were staring at a television. As she was recovering from seeing all that, she overheard a conversation from the couple in a different room. They were talking about how they would make Pawu into a sculpture for their viewing pleasure. Pawu walked in on them and tried to apprehend them, but they managed to cause a ruckus and escape. When Pawu got outside, the couple realized they were no match for her. So they blew up their cave with themselves in it together. Pawu just watched from a distance. Back with the kids as Bisco was being held prisoner, he still managed to get under the skin of the kid in charge, Nuts. Nuts was very close to blowing Bisco's brain out, but the other kids suddenly started calling his name. So he left to see what was going on. When he got there, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Milo had cured every one of their diseases. Turns out it was simply shell skin, and he even gave them the medicine for it and how to make it. The kids asked him what he wanted in return, but he said he just wanted Bisco back. Nuts still wanted to look like he had the bigger nuts, so he refused Milo's request. But just then, the school of blowfish that they were afraid of attacked them. And there were more than usual. Nuts and his crew seemed to have lost hope because they couldn't do much to the blowfish. But Bisco jumped in and took down one of the blowfish like a badass. Bisco just keeps racking up aura points. He proceeded to save one of the kids that had been grabbed by the blowfish. He then stopped to talk to him about the map he had received earlier, and he struck a deal with the kid. For every place on the map he could name, he would take down a blowfish. The kid provided all the names necessary, and Bisco took care of all the blowfish easily. Nuts couldn't believe his eyes. Bisco didn't waste any time. After the blowfish were down, he called for the crab and landed on it so he could continue his journey with Milo. As Milo wanted to leave, Plum grabbed his cape and asked him to stay instead. But Milo told her she would be fine, and that the other kids would need her since she had all the qualities to be a good doctor. Something about that line doesn't sit right with me. Someone call the cops on this man ASAP. Bisco and Milo continued their journey through the cold wastelands, and it seemed like they were going to freeze their balls off before they got to the next camp. Suddenly, Bisco brought the crab to a stop and made Milo notice a frost rabbit ahead. Bisco eagerly rubbed his hands together like he was at a ditty party and grabbed his bow to shoot the rabbit, but Milo told him not to worry and fired instead. His arrow missed, but as Bisco was making fun of him, the arrow sprung up a white, sticky liquid that caught the rabbit and made it immobile. Bisco's smile left his face very quickly. He realized Milo had come far in his bow training. Just then, Bisco noticed something else, a green tube sticking out from the ground. When he went to check it out, he saw that it was the pink-haired girl from earlier who ran off with their money and gave them cheap stuff in return. Milo defrosted and treated her as fast as possible, but she didn't even say a single word of thanks. I'd have thrown her back out, honestly. No room for ungrateful people in my space. But Milo, being the simp he is, just smiled and kept taking care of her. I swear I get the urge to slap this man every time he pops up on the screen with his behavior. Bisco teased the girl a little bit, and then they headed back out. On the way, Bisco and the girl kept arguing, and the crab was sick of it, so it threw them both off and into the snow. I guess that's one way to end an argument. Soon they stumbled upon another camp and took refuge there. The camp dwellers were strange people and wanted to do business only with stuff from before the giant Tokyo explosion, like blankets and liquor. They were even willing to trade some goods in exchange for the crab, but Bisco heard that and wanted to turn them into crab food on the spot. Milo was confused on how to proceed, so the girl came along and sweet-talked the merchant into giving them a good deal. Milo was surprised at how good she was with words, and he wondered what else her mouth could do. Bisco, however, was still skeptical of how she managed to get the goods. Soon, they reached the railway they were searching for. The crab broke through the frozen entrance, and they all walked in. With the girl illuminating the way with glow mushrooms, the gang moved ahead to find some trains that had apparently broken down. Milo and Bisco worked to get it going, but it was self-operated and needed a fare to start up. So the girl jumped in and started hot-wiring the train. She noticed it was a bit complicated, so she asked them to give her a while. I don't know about y'all, but a girl hot-wiring a train just sounds hot to me. While the girl was working on the train, Milo and Bisco made dinner and relaxed for a bit. Milo then proceeded to tell Bisco, without consent, about how he had been enjoying their journey so far. He hated that he used to live life in the city, completely oblivious to what was happening around him. Bisco told him not everything was about him and that he should stop his whining. Bisco then proceeded to whine about Jabi too and how he wanted to save him. What a bunch of whiny wimps. Even the girl couldn't stand the mushy nonsense they were spouting. So she interrupted their talk and told them that repairs were done. As they kept talking, Milo found a notebook that had different drawings on them, and on each page, there were different types of mushrooms drawn. Bisco used that and figured out their next clue for getting to where they needed to go. However, the girl said she wasn't going to follow them. They were giving off beta male vibes, and she didn't want to be around that kind of energy. Milo wanted to thank her regardless, since she had helped them a lot so far. He asked her for her name, and she said it was Tyrrell. Bisco thanked Tyrrell from the bottom of his heart and they went off with the train. As they moved on, their bad luck followed them closely behind, because they somehow managed to stumble into a nest of oil squids. Milo froze up because he was scared to use his bow, but Bisco yelled at him to stop being a pussy and just shoot. So Milo took up his bow and engaged the monsters. It seemed like they had taken care of them, but their leader showed up and managed to capture Bisco. Milo then ordered the crab to bust open the train and use the engine to gag the monster. Once it was in its mouth, Milo used the power of friendship to blow up the engine with his arrow, and they got to their destination. Once Bisco saw their target, he went crazy and started acting like a madman on steroids. Milo couldn't go after him across the ravine, so he called out to the crab to help him. And just as I thought things couldn't get any worse, Pawu shows up and demands the head of Bisco. Talk about bad luck. Bisco dodges her bike and shoots an arrow at her, which she easily blocks. She says that Bisco will pay for kidnapping her brother, and he replies that Milo followed him of his own free will so that he could save her life. Pawu refuses to believe him, so Bisco decides to taunt her by saying that he never thought she was Milo's sister because she looks old enough to be his mother. This pisses off the badass mommy, but just as she revs her bike engine, the white snake comes out of the canyon again. Pawu is too stunned by that, and she can't even react in time as the giant snake catches her with the fingers protruding from its sides. To rescue his sister, Milo jumps on the giant snake with the crab. He tells Bisco to catch Pawu, then makes the crab stab the snake. The snake cries out loudly and drops Pawu, whom Bisco catches. Milo jumps down after his task is over, but the snake shoots out its tongue to grab the crab. Bisco and Pawu are worried to see this, and he tells her to get her bike running if she wants to save her brother. Meanwhile, Milo tries attacking the snake's tongue with poison, but it doesn't work, so he decides to cut off the crab's claw instead because it can grow back again. He succeeds in doing that, but just as they are falling, the snake's head reaches their location, threatening to swallow Milo whole. However, his mama didn't raise a quitter. He aims an arrow to hit the snake's insides. Just then, something hits the snake, changing its direction rapidly. Milo sees that Bisco and Pawu have teamed up to save him, and Bisco flies to him to grab his hand. Just when they thought it was over, the snake returns and swallows them both, but then its mouth is forcefully ripped apart by mushrooms growing inside it. Bisco and Milo poke the iron pole through its head, creating more mushrooms. Emerging drenched in the snake's blood, they use a giant mushroom to slingshot themselves to safety, and the crab catches them right as the giant snake falls to the ground. Milo and Pawu have an emotional reunion, and then everyone goes down to examine the legendary rust-eater mushrooms growing on the snake's body. However, Bisco thinks something is odd. He picks a mushroom and starts eating it, only to learn that it looks and tastes just like a common mushroom. He says they should hunt another prey to have a better chance at discovering the rust-eater, but Milo stops him, telling him that he is in no shape to fight. Bisco just pushes him away because he can't waste time, but just then, Milo notices the mushroom glowing as it comes in contact with Bisco's blood. He realizes that this is the secret to awakening its power. Milo asks him about his blood type, but Bisco doesn't even know what a blood type is. That shocks Milo, but then he realizes that even Jabi had the same response when he treated him in the city, and he understands that there must be something special about Mushroom Keeper blood. As Milo is busy treating Bisco and then researching the Rust Eater, Pawu begins to think that maybe Mushroom Keepers are not bad people after all. She decides to go and repair her bike in the meantime. But as she goes outside, she is shocked to find a giant whale helicarrier over the canyon that shoots harpoons at the giant snake. Milo and Bisco also come out, and they find that the helicarrier belongs to Kurokawa, who was following Pawu to make sure she killed Bisco. Bisco immediately shoots a mushroom arrow at the ship, but the mushrooms rot just as they bloom. The pilot starts shooting at him, but Bisco dodges everything and reaches the ship's level to shoot an arrow inside. However, Kurokawa is ready for this, and he shoots Bisco with the special rust bullet before taking the giant snake's body and flying away. The next morning, Pawu decides to head back to her city, Imahama, with medicine made from the rust eater to cure Jabi. She doesn't take the medicine herself to keep a secret that they need mushroom keeper blood to use the rust eater mushrooms. Instead, she gives the medicine to Bisco so that he can heal his body that has already started to rust. As he is the only one who can stop her, she starts getting in his face and flirting with him after having a change of heart, and the virgin Bisco turns red. After Pawu realizes the power she has over Bisco, she leaves for Imahama, but she finds a brainwashed soldier at one of the security points who attacks her. She knocks him out, but then Kurokawa comes there with his guards, telling Pawu to cooperate because he has the old Jabi in his custody. Meanwhile, Bisco and Milo are trying to take it easy until Bisco's injury heals, but he is as wild and carefree as ever. As he is frolicking with the crab in swamps one day, Milo is at their hideout preparing dinner. Suddenly, the television turns on by itself, and Milo sees a broadcast from Kurokawa, who has captured Pawu, and he tells Milo and Bisco to turn themselves in if they want her to live. Milo is really devastated by that, and when Bisco gets back to the base, he finds him frozen stiff with panic. He instinctively tastes the stew Milo made and realizes that it has sleeping mushroom poison. Milo is trying to pull a trick on him. He quickly figures out that he is doing this because Pawu is in some kind of danger, and he decides to go and rescue her at once. Milo tries to stop him because he is not healed yet, and when Bisco doesn't stop, he points his bow at him. He knows that Bisco is really sick, possibly even more than Pawu and Jabi, and if he goes to rescue Pawu in this condition, he will die. Milo says that he can't let his friend die, and Bisco tells him that he can't let his friend's hot sister die. He tells Milo to step down, but he refuses and shoots an arrow at him. Bisco dodges that and then hits Milo to knock him down, but Milo sneakily injects him with sleeping medicine. As Bisco falls to the ground and his consciousness begins to fade, the injured Milo starts crying as he swears that he will protect him from unnecessary injuries this time and rescue Pawu and Jabi by himself. On the other hand, Kurokawa is playing Yu-Gi-Oh! With a brainwashed soldier who can't do anything but rant that he lost. He pushes him down in frustration when suddenly Milo barges into the room with his bow drawn and pointed at Kurokawa. Milo recalls how Kurokawa tortured Pawu in the video message. Kurokawa told him to hand over Bisco's dead body and the secret to making the rust-curing medicine. He kept his sister alive, but Pawu resisted him, saying that he wouldn't be able to harm Bisco because the redhead would barge in and kill everyone. Damn, she's already riding Bisco before actually riding him. Bisco must be packing like crazy. Kurokawa tortured her even more, and that broke Milo down, but now he is here. He demands Kurokawa tell him where he is hiding his sister, but Kurokawa tells him to reveal the secret to making medicine out of the rust eater mushroom. First, Milo tells him to bring some rust eaters so he can show him how it is done, and Kurokawa sends his brainwashed puppet to bring a basket of rust eaters. Milo tells him that he needs to mix the rust eater with other compounds to turn it into a medicine, and he takes out some vials from his bag and mixes them. As he speaks, Kurokawa realizes a bit too late that it is some kind of mushroom spore, and the very next moment, the room is filled with pink smoke. Milo knocks down the guards and then slashes Kurokawa with a poison knife, telling him that if he wants to live, he should tell him the location of Pawu right away. Suddenly, he gets shot by an arrow from Kurokawa's hidden crossbow, who uses medicine to nullify the poison right away. Milo asks him how he can do that, and Kurokawa tells him that he was a mushroom keeper once too. Milo tries attacking him again, but he stops abruptly. Kurokawa tells him that the arrow he shot earlier had the puppet mushroom that turns people into his puppets, and he can control them using the neural link chip in his mind. This Kurokawa guy is really playing Plants vs. Zombies in real life. He says that he developed this ultra-useful technique all by himself, but the mushroom keepers thought that he was some kind of monster and banned him. He then tells Milo that he can make him pass on to the great beyond this instant, but he needs the recipe for the rust-curing medicine first. Milo refuses to open his mouth despite threats and bribes. Kurokawa gets furious and decides to just send him off to the afterlife. In that moment, the door's blown open, and Bisco arrives to save the day, just casually aura farming. Kurokawa tells Bisco that he has been waiting eagerly for him, but Bisco doesn't give a rodent's bottom about this guy. Kurokawa gets offended by this and tells Bisco that he should care more about him because he is the person responsible for spreading bad rumors about mushroom keepers, so they are hunted, and he alone thrives. Bisco doesn't even react to that and says that it will make him get a lot of revenge quickly. Kurokawa aims his crossbow at him, but Bisco just shoots off his arm. He thinks that the work is done, but Kurokawa makes Milo shoot him with poisonous arrows. Milo begs Kurokawa to spare Bisco's life, and in exchange he tells him that he needs to use Mushroom Keeper blood to activate the powers of the mushroom. Kurokawa thanks him for the intel, and says that as a reward, he can kill Bisco painlessly by shooting him right in the brain. Milo begs Kurokawa to stop, but as he sees Bisco's determined eyes, he realizes he has a plan and shoots anyway. Bisco grabs the arrow with his teeth and then spits it right at Kurokawa, piercing his eye. The furious Kurokawa tries taking down both Bisco and Milo with him, but then a mushroom arrow takes away his controller and slams him to the roof. Bisco recognizes those mushrooms, and as he turns around, he finds that it was Jabi who rescued them. Jabi then heals Milo to free him from the brainwashing, and says that no matter how many wicked techniques Kurokawa uses, he was no match for his mushroom control, even in the past. The old man then tells Bisco and Milo that he was biding his time in his prison cell, acting senile to distract the guard outside. He asked for food, and the guard threw him a dead rat. But as the guard got distracted by a phone call, he grew a special acidic mushroom on the rat's body that melted the bars. He also rescued Pawu on the way, and told her to get to safety while he took care of a few more things. That was when he heard the explosions and ran to check things out. After that, the three men get outside the building, but Kurokawa's goons surround them. Bisco's knees are seriously injured and he can't fight, so Jabi asks Milo to take him to safety and treat him while he stays back to fight. Milo runs as fast as he can while carrying Bisco, but Kurokawa's mind-controlled goons catch up to him and start shooting him with rust arrows. The rust disease spreads quickly through Milo's body, and he is about to collapse. The crab somehow notices this and emerges from the snowy ground to knock down all the goons. However, Milo has taken too much damage now, and he slowly starts losing consciousness while still worrying about Bisco. Milo entered a dream state and saw Pawu, Bisco, and Jabi all together having a picnic in a field. His heart melted at the sight of it, and he ran towards them. But he noticed that the closer he got, the farther they got from him. He finally woke up in a cave somewhere with Bisco. He called out for him, and Bisco ran to hold his hand. Milo was trembling, but after a few words from Bisco, he calmed down. He then proceeded to give Milo the Rust Eater medicine. Milo asked Bisco if he was angry at him for making him lose, but Bisco wasn't angry. He said that since they were both alive, it was a draw, and they didn't lose. Milo quickly changed the tone of the conversation and asked Bisco if he wanted to date Pawu. Bisco went bright red and said he didn't want to date the same woman who tried to kill him multiple times. Milo then threw in some extra details and told Bisco that Pawu was an E-cup. But Bisco, being the virgin wimp he is, still declined the offer, saying that he wanted to keep his head. If I was offered the same thing, I'd gladly welcome death if it meant falling into those heavenly E-cups. Suddenly, Milo started to feel weak and asked Bisco to stay with him till the morning on some gay-type shit. Bisco agreed, but it was a lie. He said his farewells to the asleep Milo and then went ahead with the crab to go and face Kurokawa. Elsewhere, Kurokawa was preparing something massive. He dragged Jabi into a building to show him something. Jabi at first was playing the senile old man bit, but when Kurokawa started to explain his plan to him, Jabi couldn't believe his ears. Turns out Kurokawa had found out how to artificially create the rust winds, and he was using that to make a lot of money off of people who wanted the cure. He was able to do this because he found the source of the initial explosion in Tokyo that caused the rust winds in the first place. It was a rust reactor capable of creating an unlimited amount of rust within itself. The reactor was part of a huge robot known as Tetsujin. Kurokawa wasn't trying to revive the Tetsujin exactly, but he did need a way to spread the rust. So, he created the rust bullets and his modified cannons that could spread rust to a very large area with a few shots. Jabi was terrified at the potential chaos that Kurokawa could spread and told him he was out of his damn mind. Kurokawa didn't care about morals whatsoever. He was rottener than the apple the witch gave to Cinderella. He even tried getting Jabi on his side. He wanted him to pick out some young mushroom keepers and deceive them into giving their blood up for Kurokawa's experiments. Jabi gave him a solid headbutt and told him to go ahead and kill him if he wanted to. Kurokawa was furious after that, but one of his guards jumped ahead and beat up Jabi. Kurokawa then told the guard to cut off Jabi's fingers since he wasn't willing to cooperate. But the guard instead broke Jabi's chains and stabbed Kurokawa in the foot. The guard turned out to be Bisco, and he threw Kurokawa over the ledge and onto the metal floor. Somehow that didn't kill him. What is this Kurokawa dude made of? Vibranium? Bisco told Jabi to take care of the machine that was about to fire the rust outside while he took down Kurokawa. Jabi saw the state Bisco was in and had his reservations, but after Bisco had a little heartfelt moment with him, he reluctantly agreed to let him go. Bisco jumped down to meet Kurokawa, but when he got to him, Kurokawa had deployed one of his heavy-duty hitters, but the heavy-duty part was just in size. The guy was dumber than a bucket of bolts. He shot multiple rounds of rust bullets at Bisco point blank, yet none of them hit. Finally, he decided to charge at Bisco, but Bisco was tired of the games and just used an arrow to take the guy out. Next, he shot an arrow at Kurokawa, but he missed. His rust disease had gotten very severe, so it took off 2 of his fingers. Kurokawa cued his evil laugh and thought victory was his. He even started his evil villain speech, but Bisco just dashed at him and punched him in the face. He said that as long as he had even a single nail left, he would find him and send him to the Shadow Realm. Kurokawa tried running away behind his goons, but Bisco made light work of them and proceeded to punch Kurokawa so hard that it broke his arm. Like literally, his arm crumbled to pieces. Talk about monster strength. But even after all that, Kurokawa was still standing. He pointed his gun at Bisco and was about to shoot. But Milo came just in time like the Powerpuff Girls and shot off Kurokawa's arm. Bisco then pulled him into the sea of rust and drowned him there. But at this point, it was too late for Bisco to be saved. Milo cried and asked Bisco not to die. Sure, like if he could do that, he wouldn't. Bisco just told Milo to shoot him in the chest so he could die like a legend. So, after saying some final words to Bisco, Milo pulled back his bow and fired an arrow straight into his heart. Bisco fell over and died while Milo stood there watching and crying. The rust cannon was gearing up to fire, and Jabi had his hands full with some heavy hitters. He finally managed to shake them off, but it was too late. The cannon was about to fire.
Pawu saw this and took one of the corpses of the heavy-hitting apes and just threw it at the cannon so it fell over and didn't go off. Now, I know what y'all must be thinking, but I'll say it again. I would gladly risk death for those heavenly E-cups.
As soon as she took care of that, explosions started all over the facility, and the bunny masks ran out, loudly claiming that Kurokawa was dead. Jabi realized that Bisco finished the job, and Pawu ran inside to meet up with Bisco and help him out before the building was destroyed. But she didn't find him anywhere. Then the rubble falling from the roof almost splashed her with the molten rust, but Milo protected her with some mushrooms. They ran out of the facility immediately, and as Jabi saw Milo, he asked where Bisco was. Milo remembered his death and then said that Bisco was only in his heart now, and Jabi understood what he meant. Soon the building collapsed and the rescue squads from the city arrived to see if they could find anyone in the rubble. The rust was too thick for them to do anything, but Milo wished that he could just see Bisco one more time. Suddenly, a giant hand emerged from the rubble, crushing a helicopter. Everyone was shocked, but their fear exponentially increased when they saw the Tetsujin wake up with molten rust covering its skeleton. No one could believe what they were seeing. The Tetsujin proceeded to fire a shot toward the sky that fell on the valley in the distance, creating a gigantic explosion. Jabi and Milo panicked because that attack must have burnt all the rust-eater mushrooms in the region, but there were more urgent things to worry about. The tanks started shooting at the Tetsujin, but their attacks had no effect on it. Instead, it began shooting molten rust at them to cover the entire area in a thick coat of rust. Milo and his friends hid in the trenches, and as the Tetsujin began venturing away, they found that their crab was also buried under the rust. Jabi assured them that the crab wouldn't rust, but they needed to work hard to dig it out. Milo told him to dig the crab while he went to stop the Tetsujin. Pawu told him not to be foolish because he couldn't fight such a destructive enemy alone. But Milo said that he was not alone because Bisco was always with him. What a load of baloney. This Milo dude is really just asking to die at this point. Elsewhere, Tirol was still roaming aimlessly, trying to be a good merchant. She approached one checkpoint while thinking of Bisco and Milo, when suddenly, one of the soldiers brainwashed by Kurokawa arrived. Tirol got creeped out by seeing the mushroom on its head, but it dropped off because Kurokawa was dead and the link had been severed. Now the soldiers were confused about what was happening to them, but they barely got time to process what was going on, when suddenly, one of Kurokawa's helicopters arrived to refuel. The passengers looked like they had seen the face of Ghost Rider. They were beyond terrified. All they kept saying was, "It was coming!" Tirol was confused as to what they were talking about, but it didn't take long before she saw the Tetsujin. She too practically peed her pants after seeing it. The Tetsujin came to a stop after seeing a blockade of military vehicles. They fired a barrage of missiles at it, but the Tetsujin cleared all of them and sent them to a rusty retirement. Tirol yelled at the City Watch members and asked them to do something about it, but they were all wimps and didn't even want to go anywhere near the machine. Better other people than them. The Tetsujin got to the location of the snowman merchants while muttering Bisco's name. It was about to blow up the village of the snowmen, but suddenly, Milo arrived there and loudly called the Tetsujin Kurokawa. He realized that Kurokawa's consciousness had migrated into the Tetsujin. Milo taunted him, saying that he may have grown big, but his brain and ball sack were still the size of a rat. Kurokawa shot a laser beam to destroy the hill he was standing on. Milo quickly jumped and shot a mushroom arrow at him. The Tetsujin attacked him again and again, but since Milo had just taken the Rust Eater medicine, he was fine. He kept shooting at the Tetsujin with mushroom arrows, and then the snowmen also decided to join the fight. The Tetsujin turned its attention toward them first, and almost blew them away, but Jabi arrived with the crab and distracted it. He told Milo to keep firing at the Tetsujin so that the mushrooms could overpower the rust. Both of them started shooting while dodging the Tetsujin's attacks, but they eventually reached a dead end. Their attacks didn't seem to be doing much damage to the Tetsujin. Suddenly it started screaming loudly, just like me when my girl gets on my last nerve. It then proceeded to fire the most destructive attack in its arsenal, blowing up the entire area, leaving a trail of rust and destruction. After the explosion had calmed down, Milo woke up to seeing the arm of the crab. He and Jabi managed to survive that blast, which is insane considering how big it was. Jabi tried moving on, but he stumbled and fell. He had gotten an injury from all that fighting. Milo quickly went to treat him, but as he did so, they both thought about what kind of monster created the Tetsujin all those years ago. It was a powerful being that rusted away everything in its path, both living and non-living. Jabi even went as far as to liken it to a god because of how much power it had. Milo said that in that sense, mushrooms are god killers that evolved to defeat rust. Just then, the snowmen arrived, and Milo asked them to take care of Jabi because he was too injured to move. Milo steeled his resolve and followed the Tetsujin to try and stop it before it reached Imahama. He took the crab along too. Meanwhile, the snowmen tried to slow down the Tetsujin, but they couldn't do much before being covered in rust. Soon, the Tetsujin reached the village of children where Nuts and Plum were. They immediately panicked upon realizing that they had no hope of winning against it. Nuts decided that they had to abandon the village to keep everyone safe, but the Tetsujin noticed them. After leaving their village, Nuts told everyone to go ahead while he acted as the decoy and then ran straight toward the Tetsujin. He threw his harpoon into its body to distract it, but the Tetsujin just shot a laser beam at him. Luckily, Milo arrived there just in time like the Powerpuff Girls and used a special mushroom to protect Nuts and deflect the laser bullet. He yelled at the Tetsujin to fight someone on the same level as him. The Tetsujin said, "Bet," and fired another laser beam at Milo. Milo used the same mushroom to block the attack and then shot the Tetsujin's giant body with the mushroom arrows while dodging its attacks. He then let the kids escape, but he soon got trapped. Just as the Tetsujin was about to blast him away, a helicopter arrived, and from that, Pawu jumped out to bash the Tetsujin's iron head with her full strength. Tirol and Jabi also arrived, and Milo was surprised to see them. The watch guards were also there with their full military might, and they bombarded the Tetsujin with attacks, forcing it to change direction. They pressed it down with relentless attacks, but then the Tetsujin unlocked a secret weapon inside its body. It removed its ribs to unveil a fan in the middle of its chest, and using it, it created a strong rust storm that turned everything in its path to rust. Milo and his friends somehow survived the attack, but now Pawu was no longer able to fight. Milo asked Jabi to take care of her as he proceeded to dope himself with a mushroom poison that increased his strength drastically for a short period of time. The Tetsujin finally reached Imahama, and the people panicked as they saw it come closer and closer. The guards started firing to slow it down, but they couldn't do much. When Milo arrived and shot it, the Tetsujin turned around. Milo continued his relentless attack on the Tetsujin while dodging its threatening attacks. Milo was really out here being badass, just like Bisco. Suddenly, he got slapped to the ground. After such an attack, the crab was out of commission, but Milo was still standing strong because of all the juice he injected into his muscles earlier. He kept moving around and fighting the Tetsujin, despite losing control over his body. He used mushrooms to jump closer to the Tetsujin, and then climbed on its body. Using every ounce of strength he had left, he stabbed the Tetsujin's body, creating deep wounds that caused it to cry in pain. Suddenly, the Tetsujin stopped moving, and Milo thought he won. But he found Bisco's goggles in the rust, and just as he dug them out and called Bisco's name, the Tetsujin grabbed him and slammed him against the wall. Not gonna lie, after that, I'd probably pack up for the day because there's just no way I'm getting up to keep fighting. And thankfully Milo didn't have to, because something strange started happening on the back of the Tetsujin. An arm stuck out of its back, then someone pushed out and we saw Bisco looking all sexy in his cape. He jumped to where Milo was and told him that he heard him all the way from the other world. Milo was probably convinced that he was hallucinating after being hit so hard. Can't blame him, I'd think the same too. But it was really true. Bisco was back in the world of the living once again. How? I have no clue. All I know is he's about to beat the rust out of the Tetsujin, and I'm here for all of it. Bisco grabbed Milo's hand and they had a little gay moment of staring into each other's eyes passionately. Milo went in for a hug, but Bisco's body was too hot, in every sense of the word. Even the Tetsujin knew it, so it tried grabbing Bisco for some attention. But he jumped out of the way. Milo handed him his bow, and with one shot, he pierced through the Tetsujin's leg and grew rust-eater mushrooms. The Tetsujin shot a beam at Bisco, but Bisco completely one-shot the Tetsujin and split it in half with his arrow, growing even more rust-eater mushrooms in the process. Bisco said he could feel a power welling up inside him, and it wouldn't stop. But he discarded all thoughts of it and just headed to the Tetsujin, with Milo, of course. Milo asked him why he didn't want to understand what was going on with his body. Bisco said that since Milo knew, that was enough for him. Milo went tomato red, and they went straight for the Tetsujin. Once they got to the base of it, Bisco immediately noticed that the Tetsujin was bulging and swelling up. He wanted to shoot it, but everyone yelled at him not to. Apparently, this was the same scenario that happened in Tokyo years ago, and if he shot it, the explosion would be as massive as the one before. The Tetsujin decided to make matters worse by spewing some more rust winds, but Bisco used a huge mountain of rust-eater mushrooms to block it like a wall. Bisco wondered what he could do, instead of shooting the Tetsujin straight away. He asked Tirol to figure out how they could defeat it. Tirol scrolled through the manual and discovered that if Bisco could kill the part of the brain where Kurokawa was, the Tetsujin would stop and not detonate. But if he missed, the whole area would go boom. Those were some pretty high stakes. Reminds me of my time in Vegas when I went bankrupt playing high-stakes poker. Now, Bisco had to put on his poker face and get things done. They needed to break the metal mask on the Tetsujin before Bisco could shoot. Pawu volunteered to do it since she had the most precision with her staff. However, she wanted some motivation before leaving. Bisco, the virgin idiot, didn't pick up on the cues, so he told Pawu that if she got back alive, he'd give her anything she wanted. Pawu wasn't satisfied with just that, so she kissed Bisco deeply and then went off to battle. Using the power of justice and love, she split the metal mask in half, and Bisco got her to safety. With her safely down, Bisco turned his focus back to the Tetsujin, and he was finally able to see Kurokawa on the head of it. Bisco tried shooting him, but Kurokawa shot multiple rust bombs out of his body to deflect the arrow and attack him at the same time. Milo shot some arrows at the ground in anticipation of the next attack. Kurokawa suddenly started cursing Bisco, saying that he wouldn't be able to defeat him no matter what. He attacked Bisco, but just then, the mushroom arrows shot by Milo earlier sprang up, and both of them were yeeted high up. Bisco took his aim, but Kurokawa threw some rust at his eyes, blinding him. Bisco hesitated because of that, but Milo held his hand, telling him to believe in himself and release the arrow. Bisco did just that, and his arrow pierced Kurokawa's head, hitting the desert behind him. Suddenly, rust eaters started growing like crazy from the arrow, approaching Kurokawa's giant body. They grew all over his body and crushed him from all sides. All the rust fell from the Tetsujin's body, leaving only its steel frame behind. Soon, morning came, and the battle was finally over. Jabi and Pawu had been miraculously cured of all their rusting, and they saw Bisco and Milo lying on top of the mass of mushrooms. Jabi called out to Bisco, but Pawu asked him to give them a minute because she was sure her brother was talking about something important with his best friend above the mushroom pile. Milo thanked Bisco for being alive and hugged him, asking him never to leave him alone after this. Bisco hugged him back, promising that they would remain inseparable partners till the end. Soon, they came down and things started getting in motion. Milo started using the rust-eater mushroom to cure the rust disease among the people of Imahama, and Tyrol took a truckload of it to do business elsewhere. Pawu became the new governor of Imahama and declared independence from the Japanese government. She announced that mushroom keepers were welcome in her city, and the news spread all over the country. Meanwhile, Bisco and Milo set out on a journey again and came disguised to the same checkpoint where it all started. The officer and his assistant, being the clueless idiots they were, didn't recognize them again and started showing them their wanted posters and glazing them up, basically. However, the officer had stopped believing that Milo and Bisco were really dangerous people. He checked their documents and let them get past the wall. As they were passing, Bisco placed 2 vials of the rust-eater medicine in his pocket in case he needed it. The man panicked, saying that he could not accept a bribe because he was an honest person. But Bisco told him that it was his reward for dutifully tending to the mushroom like he instructed him to. They both then removed their disguises and ran off. The man called his assistant for backup so they could take down Bisco and Milo, but the assistant just wanted a good picture of them for the posters. As they rode off into the distance, they set out on a new journey to cure the entire world of the rust disease,